So here's the reps per inch stick, or one version of it that we're gonna make today. This is how it works. You just wrap the yarn around the top, something like that. And then what you want to do is run the yarn down this groove to the larger indentation, this 1 inch measuring groove. And then you simply twirl the yarn around this thinner bit down within this groove. And as you can see, it's relatively comfortable and easy to apply the yarn to this groove. So it's a pretty decent way of determining the wraps per inch. So now we can just that was maybe one too many, but we can count them off here. It's 12. Seems all right. So I'll show you how to make this thing, I guess. No, I don't guess. I know. That's exactly what we're gonna do. You're gonna need a blade and some wood. We have a very nice blade, and we have a not so nice blade, a box cutter. And I'd like to use my fancy knife for this, but I won't, because the wood we're using, this Norwegian pine, or red pine as it also is known as, is very sappy, and it gets the blade all sticky and stuff. So I'll just use this box cutter because I'm willing to spare it. So what you want to do is peel off the bark. So you will hold the blade parallel to the surface of the stick or twig, or what we might call it, and just peel off the bark. You want to peel off the outer membrane and don't actually cut into the wood. So firmly but gently, that is the mantra here. Firmly but gently remove as much of the bark as you can. And, do this in several passes rather than trying to rush and cut in too far. There is no frogging in woodworking. There is no backsies. There is no undo. Every once in a while, you're going to run into one of these knots in the wood, and it's going to become difficult. And this is when it's nice to have a good, strong, sharp blade like this one, which makes working this across the grain like this a lot easier. And the reason the resistance is so high is because this is where a branch is branched off, and what you're cutting through is the core wood of that branch. So you're cutting across the grain rather than with it. And I really can't use this knife. I'm gonna have to use the box cutter here, because that other blade was given to me by my late grandmother, and I need to be careful with that tool. And speaking of careful, you're working with sharp objects, so be very gentle and mind your friends so no one gets hurt. So we're just going to continue on as we were, just peeling away layer by layer this bark, this outer bark. And you really don't want to cut too deep. Just cut gently off the outer layer. And now we can see we're starting to get into the main wood, get through the bark, that is. But we're going to have to do another pass or two. You just I can't stress it enough. Don't cut in too far. Be gentle. And it's much better to take your time and just relax and to clean up a little. Be courteous, and it's good for the mind. Keep a clean environment, and don't be too rambunctious and go overboard here. You know what I'm saying? So we got all this sap all over our fingers. Hopefully you're not using the most low quality wood in the forest, but in case you are, just kind of know that part is about to be over pretty soon. Like, once you get through the bark on pine, the sap tends to go or leave with the bark. So as soon as you've peeled off all the bark, then the stickiness kind of isn't an issue so much anymore. So yeah, just do another pass and go over and take off any bits that are kind of clearly not wood or a bit sticky, or you don't like the look of, and just try to peel it down so there's no bark whatsoever. And I spent quite a lot of time doing this because there's nothing worse than messing up in woodworking, because you can work for hours and hours and days and then make one foolish mistake and the whole thing just goes down the drains. It's the pits, it's the doldrums, So just be very gentle and peel just barely anything off, and just do many passes and just like shave it off a little, and be firm in your movements but gentle. Just don't angle the blade down into into the matter, into the wood that you're trying to shape, because what we're trying to do here is control matter to our will, and you got to make sure your will is pure and intentional. So again, here, as in knitting and all crafts, you need to keep a focused mind at all times. It's easy to let your mind, just the thoughts come to you and take over your focus, and all of a sudden you're thinking about, that guy that cut you off, or some girl that you like, or anything other than the task at hand. And that's when, the material takes on a life of its own and just does whatever it wants to do. And it is subservient to your will if your will is focused. So I think we're about ready to start carving here. I can see there's maybe one or two little pieces of bark, but we're almost done here. So I'm gonna just clean up again. It's good to keep a clean workspace, clean altar. So just every once in a while, get rid of your wood shavings, or else they're gonna go everywhere, and someone might get mad. All right, so now let's just kind of try to suss out where we want to put our notches here. So I'm thinking if I want to hold it like this maybe, and there's where my 1 inch starts, so somewhere up in here seems like the place for it. So let's just make a notch that goes in a circle around. Maybe use the fancy knife for this one. We just want to make a notch that runs perpendicular around the wood. So from one side all the way around, and then meets up with itself on the same side, right? It's just all the way around. Just just make a notch, a marking. You don't have to cut too deep on the first pass. It might be an idea to kind of start peeling away in the direction that you want to make the grooves, because we want to make this groove from this one notch here towards the other notch, which is 1 inch away exactly. So this is one way of starting your notch, is you just kind of carve away in the direction you want to remove matter, like so. And just work your way around slowly, but firmly but gently. And you can see how exposed my left finger is, my left index finger. I have about 100,000 scars on that finger from doing similar projects and slipping and cutting it. But if you're firm and gentle and control your movements and focus your mind, you should be safe. But expect the unexpected. Sometimes things happen. So just start cutting a groove into the wood, and just a perfect perpendicular line that goes all the way around. So this is how I decided I wanted to try to engineer this object. I'm not sure if it's the best way. I haven't really seen enough of these objects to know, but I think this is a pretty decent design. I've thought about it a lot, and I was walking along into town on the old road, and I came across the stick that we're carving in now. And it was the dead of winter, and it was just in the middle of the path. And everything else is covered in snow, so I took it as a sign that this is the one. This is the one we need to use. But anyway, what we're trying to do is just cut this notch into this branch, right? And we want to make a straight and true circle all the way around. And, this is going to take a while. It should take a while. You should take your time is pretty much the key here. Because if you try to rush, that's when things get out of hand, Let the material determine how long it takes. So we're almost there now. So we want to make another notch 1 inch away, like about there somewhere. Just exactly the same as we made this notch. And then we're going to carve out the wood between those notches to make an indent. So, that looks pretty good. I don't know about this. Yeah, so just keep removing pieces so you get like a nice even notch, even indentation in your wood. So I'm pretty happy with this. We can always take away some more later on in the project. So it's better to take away a little too little than too much. So let's measure 1 inch, which is 1.54 centimeters. So, no, 2.54 centimeters. So there, that's 2.5 centimeters. That's close enough. So we'll take our pen here. And it might have been a good idea to do this on our first notch as well here. But yeah, just draw a little circle around there. Make sure it's nice and straight. And we double check. Measure twice, cut once. That is the rule of thumb. And yeah, it's maybe a little shy, but that's fine. We can always carve out a little more. If it's under, it's fine. You can always shave off a little more, but you can never uncarve wood. So we're going to do this notch the same as the first one, except we're going to focus our energy, because in the opposite direction, towards the other notch. If we're cutting away wood, we want to cut it away in the direction of the other notch, like this, you see? So never cut into the line, What do I mean by that? I mean, we want to make a flat edge that drops down like 0.5 centimeter and then goes across and then up again. So you want like a 90-degree kind of descent. And then, so you see what I'm doing here? I'm carving away towards that other notch. And because I made that notch relatively deep already, there's no fear of the grain slipping away from me and getting peeled all the way to the end of the twig. Right? So just firmly but gently take off a little bit, little by little. I mean, there I felt the resistance of the wood because I was being too ambitious. So rather just take off a little sliver like that than trying to carve out a huge chunk like this. Now I feel the resistance. That's not good. So again, just come in on the notch and just peel out a little bit. Twirl it and do it again. That's a little too much again. But yeah, I mean, as long as that notch is the far one that I'm cutting towards is deep enough, it's not really a big deal. There's no chance of the grain slipping beyond the notch, which is something I've had happen more times than I would like to remember. But yeah, if you're gentle and plan well, everything's going to be fine. So you see now, we kind of got this slope coming off our new notch that kind of drifts off towards the old one. So at a certain point, like, this tactic isn't going to be viable anymore, but it's good to just do this now while we have the chance. because essentially we want to move the material towards the desired state, the desired finished state as much as possible. That's the whole point of this exercise. But as you go along, just start carving out that notch, and you just want to make this 90-degree drop, just this flat drop from one thickness, and it drops immediately down to a thinner thickness and then shoots back up immediately to the original thickness. That's the groove we're trying to make, and it should be 1 inch long. This kind of indent where it just, you have the original length, it drops down and then shoots back up. So you just have this well, this 1 inch well where we can wrap the yarn. That's the goal. So I'm struggling to think how I can explain this better. It's just one of these things that I've been doing for a long time, and what happens if you have a lot of experience in a subject is you forget what it's like to not have that experience, to not have the know-how. So it's very hard for me to put myself in the shoes of someone who's never carved wood. Even something that seems very simple like this seems very simple to me, but like there's sort of a mental block if you've never done it before. Like, wow, how do I bend matter to my will? And what can I say other than, use your strength quietly, gently, and focus your mind. These are the golden nuggets of advice that I have to offer really on this subject. But as you can see, we're kind of getting close to the desired shape. And this is when you want to dial it back even more and just, make your movements as minimalistic and non-intrusive as possible. The closer you get to your desired state, the more gentle you should be, generally. So yeah, now what I'm doing is I'm cutting in and then down, in and then down, because those are the directions I essentially want. I want to make this 90-degree kind of wall where the part I've carved out meets this 90-degree wall and then returns to the original thickness, right? So just carve out gently and just, take off a little bit here and a little bit there, and look with your eyes, feel with your fingers. What is the state of the object? Your eyes are very important. They're a crucial tool when it comes to shaping matter. They're very good at determining dimensions and the state of things and what needs to come off and what's maybe on the verge of going too far. So we've worked this far edge for a while. Let's focus on the close one. So you want to do something similar, right? You want to cut down and then cut in. But the thing is, you don't want to cut towards yourself. Never cut towards yourself. That's how you injure yourself. So if you're in a position where you feel like you should cut towards yourself, just turn the wood around. So here, I've been working for a while. It's still not quite where it needs to be. We need to shave off some more in there, but not very much. But like I was saying, if we're working on the close edge, the second notch, so to speak, turn the wood and cut away from yourself. Always cut away from yourself and your friends, because there's no telling when you might apply a little too much pressure and the knife slips, and you'll know the feeling when it happens, when you're applying force and the resistance disappears. So let's have a look here, see if we're happy with that. Yeah, it looks just about right. 2.5. It should be 2.54 some string of decimals. But yeah, 2.5 is generally how I view an inch. 2.5 centimeters, that is what I call an inch, which is close enough, honestly. We're not building pyramids, we're carving wood. 2.5 is fine. So just keep on doing that, carving towards the notch and then down, and just try to shape it in a 90-degree manner. Did you see me being stupid there and cutting towards myself? Yeah, don't do that. That's not a good idea. Take it from me. This is the way. Always cut away from yourself. So I feel like it's kind of pointless to watch me do the same thing over and over, but that's craft. That's what you have to do here, is you have to do the same thing over and over and just take off little slivers of wood and do it a million times. And eventually you end up with something that looks like this, and we could be happy with that. This will work as a tool to determine wraps per inch. We can just kind of work the yarn around like this, but as you can see, this requires quite a lot of movement in my wrist, and I kind of gotta wrap it around like this, and it's not quite ideal as far as tools go. I think we can definitely make this a little better, but if you can make this object look like that, then you have a functioning wraps per inch stick. This is fine. This tool will get the job done. And if you want to know how to use this tool better, there's a video of how wraps per inch actually work right here. But let's get back to business. So we want to cut a notch around here and then have a sort of a groove that we can feed the yarn into, and then we can spin this stick and wrap the yarn like that. That's my sort of idea of a good design. So we maybe want to round this top edge, just for aesthetic purposes. Just work our way around here and shave off a little and just round off the top, Just like a little dome on top there. This is probably okay by now. I'm gonna keep working on this too long, aren't I? Yeah. I guess that's fine. It should be fine. There's always some more you can do. That's the problem with this. You can get carried away and just keep working and working and working. But we're trying to make a functional object, not like the Taj Mahal, right? So just now let's start with our notch. We're going to make this notch exactly like we made the other notches. We learned our lesson. We're going to mark it with a pen, just so we get a nice idea of how we want this notch to go. So that looks about right. So we want to just cut a notch directly down in around this pen mark. The thing is, here we don't want to carve away to another notch. We just want this singular notch in which we can wrap the yarn. So you want to cut almost at not a 90-degree angle, more of like what should I say, 80-degree angle, so almost directly down in, but you want to just chip away these notches, right? So you cut from one direction all the way around and just sort of like a V shape into the wood. And then you cut from the other side, cut from this side, cut from the other side, and then just cut these little V's slowly but surely, firmly but gently. Make a ring, an indented ring around the very top of this wood, like so. You can see it start to shape, take form here. So just keep doing it and doing it and doing it until you get the result that you desire. I really can't explain it any more than, it's a simple motion repeated a bazillion times and you get the result. That's how it works. So we're pretty close here. I think we can fit some yarn in there. So that's pretty good. That's not the tricky bit though. This next one is going to be a little bit harder. So if we take this nasty acrylic yarn and wrap it around there, like even the stick yarn fits. So that's definitely big enough, you know. And then what we want to do is we want to feed it diagonally down into this, into the well, into the measuring well. So hold the yarn, give you some kind of idea of the trajectory, the direction it's going to want to take organically out of that notch into the well. So bear in mind kind of the physics here. So when we wrap the yarn like this, it's going to try to move away from us. So we're going to try to cut the well in a way that the yarn kind of gets snugly positioned into the notch. So we're going to kind of cut it in underneath itself like that. So just very gently in the beginning, just very gently kind of try to make a little carving, like almost a 90-degree angle into the wood. And it's a similar technique to all the other notches we've been cutting, except it's slightly harder because we have to kind of follow this strange angle. So you see here, you might have to do some freehand trickery to get access to the direction that you want. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Just you want to chip away this notch as well. And, you know, try to make it angled in such a way that the yarn fits snugly and doesn't move out of this this sort of directional trough here. So yeah, it's pretty good, but we want it to go deeper. We got to go deeper. And yeah, there's a little knot here giving me some trouble, but you know, just remain focused and everything's gonna be cool, because this is the last little detail that we're gonna add, and before we're done. I mean, obviously you can spend a lifetime perfecting an object, but we just need to get this guy functional. So scrape that out a little bit, you know, just kind of gently freehand it and make this trough a little more defined, a little bit deeper, so it can hold the yarn appropriately. It's not quite where we want it, but as you can see, it's kind of this bowed line, and we have this straight knife. So you have to sort of, you know, plot it out and think, how can I place this knife in order to achieve the line I want around this bowed kind of surface. And yeah, obviously it's not the best tool for the job, but it's a tool we have on hand, so it's a tool we're using. And you should be able to do this with a knife if you have a bit of luck on your side and the patience. It all comes down to the patience, doesn't it? So pretty close. Yeah, just gloss over it. We made it happen. Life is good. And this is how it works now. If we have this thick, kind of bulky yarn, run it down into the sort of the runway, so to speak. Let me get this positioned properly first. So it fits in there. Like, that's the requirement. The thickest wool you're going to handle needs to fit in all the notches, and then, you know, comfortably be spun on to measure the wraps per inch, and, you know, count them off. 7? Okay. It could be 8, depending on... Yeah, you should watch the video on how to use this stick properly. I'll link to it at the end of this video as well. But yeah, that's pretty much the principle. That's like, that's how you make the object, and I don't know what else I could possibly say at this moment, other than, you know, good luck, and I hope you have fun with this, and you can just keep working and making it more pretty until the end of time.